So for the first time in my experience anyway, the New Yorker Festival, at the New Yorker Festival, we're faced with having to do a sold-out interview with someone who, because of the clash between his principles and American law, is relegated to speaking only remotely from an undisclosed location in Moscow, where he is in isolation and exile. The whistleblowing of Edward Snowden, a former contractor to the National Security Agency, has ignited a transformative and still unresolved debate at home, in the United States and around the world, about the appropriate limits of the American government's secret mass surveillance programs. Whistleblowers generally are moved to disclose crimes, and one of the complicated situations that you're in is that what you revealed was not a crime, but maybe a moral or ethical or political crime in some ways in the way you looked at it. Do you feel that leaking was the only form of check and balance that could have corrected this?
Well, there is definitely a point in every institution and every process where the final check on the abuse of power is whistleblowing. However, I would dispute that there have been no crimes shown. In fact, we've seen serial violations of law. In the wake of these revelations, we had people testify to Congress that I believe more than 12 times NSA employees had used these surveillance powers to spy on exes, to spy on lovers, and that's a felony. However, none of them were prosecuted because it was considered that the value of the programs was greater than the interest of justice in basically punishing people who violated.
What can an ordinary person who's not a computer genius do? They want to know what can they do to help further this cause of more openness in the country and pushing back on sort of mass surveillance.
Dropping programs that are hostile to privacy. For example, Dropbox. Get rid of Dropbox. It doesn't support encryption. It doesn't protect your private files. And use competitors like SpiderOak that do the same exact service, but they protect the content of what you're sharing. Same thing with companies like Facebook, with companies like Google. They've made strides to increase the security of their programs, and they're getting better than they have been, but they're still not safe. You know, these are dangerous services, and you need to use alternatives that are better encrypted. Don't send your texts unencrypted on your iPhone. Use programs like Redphone, like Silent Circle, anything by Moxie Marlinspike and Open Whisper Systems. These are typically free programs that are better than what comes standard on your phone, and they're safer.
When you made this handover of the material to the 3 reporters that you chose to work with, did you discuss where you would draw that line, and have they at any point disappointed you of any of the disclosures from your standpoint?
I recognize that, you know, nobody sees the picture. I have my own biases. I am fallible. I could make mistakes and draw, you know, that balance wrong. And that's the reason I have never published a single document about the National Security Agency. I haven't revealed any news or new details. I've instead entrusted that to American journalists and said, look, you guys are the ultimate guardians of the public interest. When the system breaks down, you are the fourth estate that helps us right the ship. You know, you veer us back on track. So what I want you to do is look at these, think very hard about what in these documents would serve the public interest for us to know, and what goes simply too far. And then beyond that, add an additional layer of checks by consulting with the government to ensure that maybe there's some information in those documents that you can't recognize the importance of, and give them an opportunity to say, you know, hey, this will put someone at risk. Don't print this. The question that you asked more specifically was, do I agree with all of the stories that the journalists have presented? I don't. You know, I would draw those lines a little differently, and I think much more conservatively than some of the journalists have had. But it's not my place to decide what should be published and what shouldn't. That is the role of our press and our representatives in Congress.
What do you believe your legacy will ultimately be? And is it going to be different from what you thought it would be when you thought, okay, I have to tell the world? Is it too early to tell?
I think I'll have to leave that to historians and say that My intention is to continue to work to change the game and to say that infringements to our rights are not inevitable with the progress of technology. We're going to continue to face new challenges. We're going to continue to face new threats. We're always going to have government officials who want to go that extra step, who want to grant themselves this extra power and secret. But civil society is more powerful today than it ever has been. And we see more and more people becoming skeptical of claims being made to us by corporations, by foundations, and by governments. And I think that's not a sign of discontent. That's a sign of a renaissance of critical thinking.
Well, on an optimistic note, we can bring this to a close and let you go enjoy a vodka or whatever they do.
I actually don't drink alcohol.
A Moscow Mule, no, okay.
I've never been.
You've been so nice to spend this time with all of us. Thank you so very much for everything.
For more of the New Yorker Festival, subscribe to the New Yorker channel.